Hello again. Now, small towns on the west coast have not been spared the third coronavirus wave. The farming towns of Papendorp and Ebenezer are experiencing a sharp increase in new COVID-19 cases. eNCA's Ronald Masinda is in nearby Vredendal. There he's assessing the situation. Let's find out from him what is happening there. Ronald, good afternoon. What is causing the sharp increases there in these towns at the moment?
Good afternoon, Yuveka. Well, the situation remains very dire for many families here in Papendorp as well as Ebenezer. Last week, in fact, or during this week, we heard from community leaders saying that there were at least 24 cases or households in Papendorp, an area that only has 64 households. People were in self-isolation. We even met with people who are in isolation, and we obviously spoke to them from a distance. But what we saw earlier on was that one child, a teenager, has been infected, positive case, living with a mom who is negative with COVID-19, but at the same time they cannot avoid their situation because they cannot afford to live anywhere else so that they can self-isolate properly. Here in Ebenezer, we also heard that 2 weeks ago, one of the biggest issues was overcrowding at a funeral where around 200 people were gathered. We do know that even today, a 43-year-old police officer will be laid to rest today. So we're also monitoring that situation to see whether or not people will come in their numbers or not. But what we also heard from community leaders is that the large gatherings and the issue of the lifting of the alcohol ban seems to have exacerbated a lot of the crowd or large crowds that gather to drink here in these small farming communities. But let's take a further listen to what Vernon Ovis had to say earlier.
Things had stabilized since last year, but since the past 2 weeks, the big causing for this spreading is funerals and the after parties, after tears parties happening after the funerals. And even since the lifting of the alcohol, people have become irresponsible. They partying, have late night gatherings, etc., etc.
And just, Ronald, the common stories we've been hearing, especially about small towns, villages as well, is that a lot of residents there feel that, you know, this pandemic can't touch them. These are people they've lived with for decades, and this is certainly not going to sort of infiltrate their communities. And I mean, that's even in my own hometown where we see people walking around without masks. Things seem to be business as usual at the height of this pandemic as well. So in terms of awareness, is the education, is the awareness reaching these small towns?
Unfortunately not, because we did visit this small town about a month back, speaking to farm workers who say that, you know, they're not being told about anything related to COVID-19. Many of them even said that, you know, they're not even going to get vaccinated because they've been hearing of harrowing stories about people being vaccinated, and that since their vaccination took place, now their health has been compromised. But we heard further from the community leader in Ebenezer, and this is what he had to say about the issue of a lack of awareness. Enough awareness has been raised by employees on the farms, but we on our side, where we got workers on the Ebenezer agri side, we do our part. That's the problem. I think because I think there must more be engagement with the farm employers to address this matter.
So very worrying then, Ronald, what you just told us about people's perceptions of vaccination, wherever they're getting that information from. So what does this actually mean for the vaccination process, the vaccination programs in these areas? Are they going ahead? Are people just not showing up? What's happening?
So according to the Western Cape Health Department, when we heard from Dr. Noma Frenchimbombo several weeks ago, she actually said that there are quite a lot of vaccination sites in these small towns, but there's a lack of people going to get vaccinated. And one of the other main issues with that is that obviously people are fearing, you know, they don't know what will come out of them in terms of after they get vaccinated. But what we also do know is that the Matsikama municipality, whom we spoke to earlier this morning, they're also saying that they are trying their best under-resourced as a municipality. Many people from these small towns have to travel even long distances to get health care, because where we were earlier on, there were not even clinics, not even mobile clinics going into these areas. So a serious cause for concern. Spoke to community leaders throughout the morning. Some of them are saying that, you know, they're going door to door to ensure that those who are in isolation remain isolated, and that they do try and give them the necessary support in terms of, you know, providing them with sanitizers and masks. But what we've seen throughout the course of the morning, many people still not adhering to COVID-19 regulations. Vernon Ovis had this to say earlier with regards to the issue of vaccinations.
You got the resources, can go to Vriendland, to clicks, you go to Lutsel Clinic, but unfortunate, we have been served by, we don't have a full-time clinic here. The clinic's only coming on Tuesdays and Thursdays. They're starting this week with our people in Ebenezer. But luckily, myself, you can afford to take taxi, your own car, you can go to the clinic in Lutsel. So this week, there's a program being rolled out by the Department of Health, where they're doing each sub-town where they're serving this coming week.
All right, Ronald Masinda, thanks very much there. Ronald in Vredendal, just bringing us what's happening in the small towns where the third wave seems to be hitting particularly hard now at the moment. Well,